Hi guys, welcome back. It's LSP. It's currently the 15th of April 2019 at around 2:15 p.m. GMT time. Just a quick overview of the month so far, and just some ideas going into the remainder of the month. What could happen, what I'm expecting, some levels to keep track of. So I'm going to start from the monthly of each. And the first thing that pops off the chart for me is obviously the 97.50 level. Now, if you watched, I believe it would have been maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, possibly, just over a month ago, maybe. I was using the March contract because this is the June contract for the dollar index, and I had the 97.50 rounded off level, which was noted on the chart. And if you remember, price actually spiked through that level. And then as we jump over into the June contract, you can see that level hasn't been traded to as of yet. So I still believe the 97.50 is going to be tagged. It's unlikely at this point. I mean, we found some support here. You can see that price has hit this once, almost again here, and a nice push away from that, grinding towards this 97.50 level. And so far this month, it's been a bit of a nothing month really. Not a great deal happening, but something we have to be mindful of. We are closer to the 97.50 level. I can't see price coming all the way back down to 94. I mean, this would require something of significant magnitude to drive price all the way down there, and if it did, I'd be very surprised. So I'm going to remove this off the chart. And so far, that's pretty much all we need to have on our monthly chart. We just drop down to the weekly, zoom out a little, and you can see it all corresponds nicely. What we can do, actually, is refine this level just a little bit and go for this high up here, which I believe is 97.57 or 97.53. Let's have a look. Miles out. 97.69, so we'll just call it 97.70. If we do come up here, I imagine all of this liquidity will be taken, and it's probably going to start to eat into this inefficiency here. So we'll say 97.70 to around about 97.80 level, and then we'll see what happens at that point. So far, in terms of the daily, we've had this drop here, okay, which corresponded nicely to these down candles. Okay, so found some support there, popped back up, dipped again, dipped a third time, some nice rejection, bit of a push away from that. We're just getting a little bit of relief just here, but just to kind of denote it in a visual fashion, or a visual sense, so to speak, I'm expecting something like the following. I don't know if we dip lower first, but I imagine if we find some level of support here, because the higher time frame support will push higher, to be honest. So that's what I'm expecting. That's what I'm expecting. And as such, obviously, I would be expecting euro, and I say euro only, not cable, and I'll explain why in a minute when we get to cable. But for euro to start to grind lower for its liquidity, which we'll go through in a second. But just looking at the daily chart, there is a small inefficiency here. Let's take a look. Almost reached it. So for me, the 96.30 level, and I'm rounding everything off, but the 96.30 level is an area that I would expect to find some level of support. If it does drive through that, then I would like to see rejection. But to be honest, where we are right now, I mean, obviously we're going sideways. It's getting a little bit messy up here. But I'd like to see, yeah, I'll even go as far as up here. I'd like to see this level traded through convincingly, so the 97 to 97.10 big figure. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to mark this as level 3 thickness. Okay, and in terms of downside, I don't really want to see price much past this point, and we'll mark the mean. So this is effectively the line in the sand for me. I don't really want to see price much past this point. I wouldn't expect, if price does come down to this level, okay, what I'm saying is I'm not expecting Sorry, what I'm saying is, as a line in the sand, I don't want to see price past this point, the 96 level, 96 to 96.10 level, okay, or price level. If it does get through this, I'm not expecting lower prices. I would expect that dollar will continue to consolidate, okay, simply because of this stop run here. Okay, we had a really nice push lower, you know, and then some really nice rejection. This rejection away from this level, okay, it's not necessarily the level per se, but it's what's happened here in this section of price action. Okay, it dropped really nicely and then went straight through it again, okay, and drove all the way up to the 97 whole number, and then we're having a little bit of a small pullback. This is enough for me. That's a really nice rejection, and if we look at the weekly, we can see it. You can see it better. It's a really strong, really strong wick, really strong tail. It's left a really nice rejection week behind. This is all painted black at one point with the colours that I'm using, but it was all painted black at one point, and it's just completely reversed and then started to grind higher as well. It's the grinding higher afterwards. It's not just seeing a nice rejection or seeing a nice, bearish week, completely reversed. It's not about that. It's what happens after the fact. And we had two really decent weeks after the fact, and now we're getting a small pullback. So again, if we get down to the 96 level, and remember, we're using higher time frame, guys. So this stuff takes time to form. It could be a couple of weeks. It could be a month. I don't know. But we have to see. But these are the levels that I'm keeping an eye on. For me, the ultimate sort of liquidity draw is going to be the 97.70 to 90, 97.80 level. But I'd like to see it past 97 to 97.10 convincingly, and maybe a small pullback into this area. Somewhere around here is where I want to key off of. Okay, I don't really want to be doing anything as price is right now. If I'm going to be trading, it's going to be off the lower time frame order flows. Not necessarily the higher time frame pulls on price, because sometimes it takes time for this stuff to form, and I like to be closer to these liquidity pools with enough range for me to trade. So, we'll see. So that's the dollar. Let me just jump over to the euro. And again, we have the inefficiency here. This is a monthly inefficiency, so it's quite a large level. You can see that it's slightly different, to the dollar. We haven't necessarily drove into it or come close to it. We're near it, but we didn't drive down there, and create this kind of equal low. There is enough of a range there to say it didn't get there, basically. Let's move this out of the way. Talking about 100 pips range from the open of this month. So, for me, the 111.20 to 111 big figure, I would like to see price drive towards that level. This area right here, or this price 113.50, okay, which we're around about 40 pips away from this. That's where I would expect price to stop, okay. And this would be effectively the line in the sand for me, okay, the 114 big figure. If price gets through the 114 big figure convincingly on euro, then we're probably grinding higher, at least to, and that's a really thick line, so that denotes the line in the sand. But we would be grinding higher at least to this level up here, 116.50. Now these figures, these levels I'm putting on the chart are miles away, okay. Not this one, but this one up here is like it's a good distance away. What I'm saying is, if we clear this up candle and convincingly get through the 114 big figure to 114, 114.10, then I would imagine higher prices to at least grind towards the 116.50 level. But that's not what I'm expecting. The reason I'm denoting this now is because I'm saying the line in the sand, as you see it on the euro, is cleaner to understand that if price gets through it in terms of order flows, monthly order flows, if price gets through it, then we are likely going higher. But again, it's not what I'm expecting. So what I'll do for now, I just wanted to put that on the chart so it's so it's something that we have in mind, and then I'll take it off now. Drop down to the weekly, and again we can see the level down here. Don't really need to refine this. That's good enough. So the 111.20 to 111 big figure is where I would expect price to go. And as you can see, these are the levels. We don't really need to refine on the weekly, to be honest, because you can see that there's a lot of mess within all of this, but we have to accept. It's easier to look at a time frame where you're dealing with one or two candles that denote a larger period of time than having to kind of figure out which one of these weekly candles is going to be the one that's effectively going to stop price, or that's going to at least offer some price sensitivity. When you look at the monthly, it makes this mess look a little bit cleaner, okay? And again, the obvious points, nice stop run here, got a beautiful stop run here, okay, we ground lower, and we know we've got our equal lows down here, we know we've got liquidity below us, okay, and it seems to have, just based on what I'm seeing and the way that the order flow is going on the weekly chart, personally, I see prices rebalanced enough for price to now start to go lower. But again, it doesn't mean I'm right. These are just things that I like to keep an eye on. And then if and when they form, we take it from there. Now, as you look at the daily chart like this, and you see that we put this monthly level on here, and the monthly line in the sand up here, okay, it makes life a little bit easier. As price is starting to grind now towards 113.50, if it gets up there, okay, we have another level here that I wouldn't really expect price to go through, but if it does, we're hitting a massive monthly level, okay. Why these levels are important, or why they offer such a strong, level of resistance or support or price sensitivity at these levels, it takes time to understand, okay. It's not something that you can just get straight away. Some people use indicators, some people use other forms of analysis, some people use fundamental analysis, and so on and so on and so on. For me personally, I use price action, and this is what works for me. Okay, so the reason I mentioned that is somebody sent me an email a couple of weeks ago and asked me, it's like, well, your lines don't make sense. They do to me personally. And I guess it's a trust thing. As you progress in your trading, and you use different sources of information, you're going to be drawn to ones that make the most sense to you in the way that you trade personally, based on whatever tools that you're using in your tool set. For me, I've had people that have emailed me and said that was incredible. Price went right to that point and then reversed. And again, it's not really about right or wrong. Okay, it's about study, and it's about getting to a point where you're confident enough to open a trade based on what you see on the charts and the analysis that you've done. That's what's important. That's the most important thing, and everybody arrives at these levels, using their own personal way of trading, their own personal way of doing analysis. This is what works for me, and the levels that I mark out for, I personally believe that they're strong levels. They're levels of interest, levels, to note on your charts, and just watch price, see how it forms around there. As far as entry is concerned, that's something completely different. Higher time frame is more analysis side of work, but when you drop down to the lower time frames, hourly or less, those are the tradable time frames for me. I use the hourly flows to kind of assess whether or not they are driving or confirming a higher time frame bias, but I don't like to use the hourly flows, for anything. Above a scalp. Yeah. So if I'm looking to open a trade on an hourly chart solely based on the hourly or lower, then for me it's just going to be a quick scalp, and that's it. I'm not looking for for a larger move. So going back to what I was saying, now that we have these levels on our charts, if price starts to grind towards these levels, then I would expect some price sensitivity around there. Okay, now I will just note something for you guys. Okay, this was last week. Okay, and there was a low here, and then obviously there's a high here. So we know that the low of the week was on Monday and the high of the week was on Friday. Okay, great. The high of the week and the low of the week, or the low of the week and the high of the week, has to form somewhere. Okay, we don't know which day it's going to form on. We have a rough idea, but we don't know which day it's going to form on. Nobody can ever be certain about that, but it's going to form. We know that there's going to be a low of the week, and we know there's going to be a high of the week. So as we start to progress in our understanding of price action, and as price starts to reach, move around, balance, rebalance, fill in inefficiencies, reverse, reject, and so on and so on and so on. All of these things that happens with price. When you look at the hourly chart like this, it gives you a better understanding of where potentially the high and the low could form for the week. You can arrive at levels of understanding where the percentage of the high or the low forming on the days that you're looking at, okay, can be very, very high. But it's all based on context. Context is very, very important. You have to understand what it is that you're looking at, why price is doing what it's doing. Okay, and again, many different ways of arriving at these understandings. But the weekly high and the weekly low of the week, this is something that you can do, and you can do the same with the daily high and the daily low. Personally, I don't do daily high and daily low studies. I've done them previously, in years before, but this is what works for me. and it's just another tool, another concept to add to, the analysis that I'm doing throughout the week to give me a better understanding of whether or not the high or the low is going to form, on any specific day. All right. So that's the euro. These are the levels that we're going to be, sort of paying attention to. There's nothing else I really need to mark off on the daily, so I'll leave that kind of as it is. We'll just go over to cable. The reason I mentioned cable earlier, and I was saying in terms of the dollar going higher, cable going lower. Cable's on its own page. Obviously, we know I've mentioned many times, and I'm sure you guys are keeping abreast of what's going on. There's a lot of stuff around the Brexit. It's been pushed forward now. There's a lot of uncertainty about what's actually going to happen. And this can create insane volatile swings for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And there has been a few occasions where I've seen something on the chart that I was very comfortable taking, and I've taken it, on cable. But that's my own personal, studies. It's not something that I would project or push out there, in terms of any sort of social platform, because I don't feel comfortable doing so on cable. It's just on its own page. It's doing whatever it wants. And to illustrate that point, right now, okay, this level right here, okay, the 130.30, okay, to around about we'll say 130.20 to 130.30, okay. This level right here is where price has found support, and it makes sense that price has found support at this level, okay. Here, for me personally, and this is a monthly level, remember, big monthly level. I do not want to see price in terms of what I'm seeing on the monthly right now. It looks bullish to me. I don't really want to see price much past this point. Okay, we shouldn't, get past the 129 big figure. If price goes anywhere near the 129 big figure and starts to break, it's going sideways. I don't think we're going lower, simply because, again, we've responded nicely here. We've responded nicely here, some really nice rejection. It makes absolutely no sense that price would want to go lower at this point. Okay, so I would personally believe we're going sideways if we get anywhere near the 129 big figure. Okay, but right now, as it stands, we found some support. So for me, in terms of monthly levels, okay, we just go for the previous swing high, okay, which is 133.80. Will it get there? I don't know. These are just study levels, something that I'm keeping a track of. If we drop down to the weekly, just to give us a better idea of where we could potentially be reaching for, we see, if we go for the low here and the high here, this level or area that I've just marked off right here is a level that, again, the 133.80 is within, okay, these two levels. So this is an area at any level through, I'll do it this way, at any price level between 133 big figure and 135.40, okay, anywhere in between there can offer levels of resistance, levels of of areas where price would hit and stop, okay, and that can happen anywhere in between this price range, which is quite a large price range. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Quite a large price range. Okay, we're talking to around about 250 pips. So within this 250 pip range, price can stop many times. Okay, and this is why we're getting this kind of messy, sloppy price action. It isn't because of Brexit per se. Okay, Brexit's the excuse, but price is going to do what price wants to do. So for me personally, like I said, and I'll just clean up the chart a little bit, I'm not looking to do anything with cable. I'm just studying it. And then when we finally get some insane price move, which will happen at some point, obviously because of the Brexit, the news and all this stuff and the uncertainty, all of this is going to filter itself out at some point. And it will represent, it will, there will be a visual representation of that. The move is going to happen on the chart. We will see it. And when we see it, it will give us a better understanding. But the more prepared we are before that happens, the more we'll understand, what happens next. Okay, that's what we want to arrive at. What happens next? I don't want to guess now with what's happening with cable. I know the levels. Okay, I know where price should be responding, should be reacting. There should be price sensitivity, but I'm not 100%. Yes, I'm prepared to take a trade, or I'm prepared to to put my money on the line. I'm not there with cable right now, so we'll just drop down to the daily. And again, you can see we have our levels up here. We have the support down here now. This is the line in the sand down here at the 129 big figure. If price comes down, okay, I would imagine all of this area, and I'll just mark it off with a box of liquidity, okay, to be rebalanced. And it's not going to be perfect, but somewhere around here, I would expect this area, okay, and I'm not saying I would expect it to go down there. I'm saying if price goes down there and scoops up all of this liquidity, I would expect price to stop, okay, and reverse. If it reverses at that point, then we're probably going to be going for the 133 to 134 big figure, 133.80 to 134 big figure, because there's plenty of reasons why price should be going up there as well. So we'll leave cable at that, and I think we're pretty much done. Yeah, we're pretty much done. So I hope you find the video informative as always, guys. These are things to study. You know, it's not trade advice, as you know. You know, I just like putting these things out there just to kind of keep a track of things, to give you guys a little bit of stuff, you know, to focus on, and maybe to add, you know, to your, to trading education as well. For those, or if anyone are, I mean, I don't know whether you guys are struggling or not. I don't know if you're doing well. I don't know if you're beginning traders or experienced traders. I have no idea, you know. So I'm hoping to at least reach all of you on some level, you know, and help in some way. All right, guys. So I'll leave it at that. Wish you all the best for the trading week, and we'll catch up probably. I want to say the end of the week, but we'll see. If I have time to do another video at the end of the week, then I will. But if not, obviously I'll be posting in the Telegram room from time to time. So we'll take it from there. All right, guys, take care. Have a great week. I'll speak to you soon.